The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you today by Draft. Looking for the best fantasy sports site on the planet? Sign up with Draft today. For a limited time only, our listeners will receive $3 matching their first deposit of at least $10. Use promo code DTR or visit draft.com/DTR to sign up now. Draft. Fantasy for the people. Now enjoy the show.
Caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. Robert Wood, touchdown. LA. Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. Picked off. Marcus Peters coming off the edge, and Ryan will be wrapped up by Clay Matthews. Everett in stride. Wow!
Franklin Myers gets his hand down there.
Weddle got a hand on it. Did he pick it? He did!
Racing down the sideline is Akeem Talib. Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA! Picked off by John Johnson. Well, it's Dante Fowler who is able to get to Breeze. Greg Zuerlein sends the Rams to the Super Bowl! LA will play for the Lombardi!
Hi guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. I am your host, Alexis Kraft, joined here as always with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen. And today we are bringing you a game preview of the Los Angeles Rams versus the Dallas Cowboys. This is a game that is really interesting because both teams here, Jake, are fighting for something. On our end, we're just fighting to keep any hope of us making the playoffs this year alive. We need to keep winning and we need a couple other teams to lose. And it's going to be really interesting because of that. But also the Dallas Cowboys here are fighting to win the NFC East, which is something that they could also pull off. So it's going to be really interesting. And I think that the thing to look out for this game is going to be, as weird as it sounds, a battle of the offenses. I think that while our defense is having a good year, I think that this game is going to be a more dominantly offensive game. I mean, at least for the Cowboys, they don't really have like a standout defense. All of their success typically comes from their offense. I guess I should say any of the success that they have had is really because of, who they have on offense. I think it's going to be that way for the Rams this game. So I think it's going to be something to look out for. And Jake, I'll let you hop in here. I'm not sure, if you agree with me, but I think that this is going to be an offensive firepower-led game.
Oh, yeah. I do think that, but I think it's going to be mainly focusing on the Rams. This game, I have the Rams kind of, really putting the Dallas Cowboys. Any thoughts of keeping Jason Garrett to rest? I think this defense is going to be around the 17-point mark. Ever since they got Jalen Ramsey week 7, they've been around the 15-point mark, allowing a game, and that is including allowing 46 points to the Baltimore Ravens. So that's a big number. They've had 30 sacks since Jalen Ramsey came to the fray in week 7. So this is a team that is getting a lot of firepower on their defense, is forcing sacks, is pushing teams backwards, and is one of the best teams, believe it or not, at forcing 3 and outs. So they're a top 5 defense in football right now. The offense seems to be finding their stride. I wouldn't say they're clicking on all cylinders. They still don't get everything done in the red zone. They don't have 100%. So until they have 100% red zone efficiency rating, I can't say that they're clicking on all cylinders, but they are getting better, and they're getting better at the right time. And I think it's going to be really hard for Dallas. This is an awful game to have, to be quite honest, especially after the Eagles won on Monday Night Football against the New York Giants. So, I look at this game and I think the Rams have the upper hand. Obviously Dallas has one thing that going for them, and that's the fact that they're playing in Dallas.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they definitely, obviously have that home field advantage. But, it's going to be interesting. It's always interesting when you've got Todd Gurley against Zeke Elliott, because these are two running backs who are very good at what they do. I would venture to say that the big star on that Dallas offense is Ezekiel Elliott. Some people could throw in Dak Prescott, but I think, to me, Zeke Elliott is that star on that offense. Todd Gurley for us is someone who has had an interesting season. He's somebody who hasn't gotten the ball as much as, a lot of us think that he should have. But it's been building upon, each game, he does seem to be getting more and more attention and handed the ball more and more. So I am going to be really interested to see how they utilize Todd Gurley this game, because, he's kind of been one of the many storylines of this season. And I could see him really, being utilized this game and really just going absolutely nuts against this Dallas team. I can only assume that Dallas is going to try and unload Zeke Elliott on us. So, we'll have to see how things go on that front. But I would not be shocked at all to see a really big battle between Zeke Elliott and Todd Gurley. I think that they're two of the best running backs in the league. And I think that they're going to be exciting to watch this game.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think this is a Cowboys team that, while I did just kind of, crap all over them, I do think that this is a very talented team on paper. I mean, just going down the run, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, that offensive line with Tyron Smith, Xavier Su'a-Filo, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, Lyle Collins. They did lose Connor Williams for the year, as that is a big loss. But then they have guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, Malik Collins, Robert Quinn. Rams fans know him pretty well. Michael Bennett, Christian Covington, Tristan Hill, Dorrance Armstrong, Jalen Smith. Sean Lee is now back into the starting lineup, it seems. Leighton Vander Esch, Byron Jones, Xavier Woods, Darian Thompson from the Giants, Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Lewis. So, they definitely have talent on this roster. It just, for whatever reason, actually, I think, the reason is it's because of Jason Garrett. I do think he holds this team back. I just don't think he's taking this team to the next level. I think he has worked well with what was around him, and that's been, an 11-5, 10-6 style of football team. But this team, to me, has been big time underachieving. They haven't beaten a soul that has a winning record. I don't expect that to be the case against the Rams. This is a huge game for the Rams as well. I mean, Todd Gurley said it best in his press conference. Look, everyone's acting, basically, he didn't say this, but everyone's acting like the Rams are, by far the favorite and they're in the best shape. But really, the Cowboys are in the playoffs right now, even at 6-7, and the Rams are trying to fight in. And of course, even if they win out and do their job, they need help. So, Todd did bring that up, and I thought that was a good point in the press conference.
Yeah, I thought that was a good point as well. And I'm kind of interested, going into this game, if there's any weak spot there's a couple, but the main weak spot for me for this Cowboys team, and I'm not even going to say like they're a very weak spot, but this Cowboys secondary is something that I think that the Rams can take advantage of, especially if our offense keeps playing as good as they have been. It would be really interesting for me to see if Jared Goff and Cooks and Woods and Kupp and all of our guys could kind of have a heyday with that secondary. To me, and I haven't watched much of the Cowboys this season, but from what I've seen, I would say on that defense, their secondary is kind of, their weak spot. I mean, they have a relatively, you named the guys earlier, but, relatively good defensive front. They have some good linebackers on that team, but that secondary, they're not talented, but, I would say that's the weaker link on that defense. And I think if Jared Goff is able to play as good as he has been the past couple days, and he continues to get that protection from that offensive line like he has been, and is obviously making the right calls and hitting open receivers and all of that good stuff, I do think that our offense can be successful. So what are your thoughts about that Dallas secondary?
Yeah, and before we get in the secondary, I do want to mention that Leighton Vander Esch is out for the year. I totally remembered that just now, and I just wanted to say that. So he won't play. So the Dallas secondary, I mean, they have talent. Don't get me wrong. I think when you look at it, first off, I was a big fan of Chidobe Awuzie, number one cornerback in the draft he came out of. So I would probably say he's better than, the consensus would believe. I'm definitely impressed with him. I'm a big fan of Chidobe Awuzie. Jordan Lewis is also pretty good. And, I got to say, I think the secondary has some solid pieces in Xavier Woods and Darian Thompson, who has really found himself, coming from the Giants, somebody that, was drafted. He had 13 picks in college out of Boise State. somebody that can be a problem to somebody like Jared Goff that has, had quite the batch of turnovers this year. And then, of course, they have Byron Jones, who's one of the best corners in football, just total shutdown guy, not really much of a, game breaker, but somebody that can shut down one of the receivers. And, I think the Rams, the thing that is so impressive about the Rams is that really their wide receivers have never totally been shut down. Jared Goff has, been unable to get them the football, whether it be, the pressure got there too quickly or his accuracy was off that day, but really the receivers were consistent. You look at Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Those are the two consistent receivers. Brandon Cooks is more the boomer bust guy, especially fantasy wise. And I think Josh Reynolds, it's all dependent on the snaps. That's really what it comes down to. So, I think that's really, what you're looking at with that. And just as far as that goes, I think just the consistency factor is so huge. And, Gerald Everett's going to be out in this game. Rob Havenstein is doubtful. So the Rams are going to keep their key components on the offensive line. They're not going to change anything, at least not this week. And on top of that, they are going to be looking at, playing Tyler Higbee for a third straight week and an opportunity for him to go over 100 yards for the third straight week. I think Tyler Higbee really is the X factor here. With the thing is with Leighton Vander Esch out, it kind of adds more pressure on Jalen Smith. And of course, Sean Lee is indeed questionable. So he might not play. We don't know if he will or not. But the thing is, I think this game is definitely going to be, one to watch for Rams fans, obviously, because it's one of 3 games remaining in the regular season, and they do have to win every game pretty much. But on top of it, you could make the argument, whether it's fair or not, and I've heard people say this, the Rams have won 2 straight against opponents they are familiar with. And that's not wrong. They beat the Cardinals, who are in their division, albeit they're a little different than last year. Actually, a lot different. But still, they beat the Cardinals. And then they beat the Seahawks, a team that has only been beaten 3 times this year. And they were one of the teams to beat them. And they almost beat them earlier in the year. So you could say, the Rams kind of have their number there. This is really it, right? Because, you have the 2 straight they lose to, they lose to the Steelers, and then they beat the Bears, who are now playing their best football at the right time. Go Bears this weekend against the Packers. It helps the Rams just go with it. But, I think when you look at that, the Rams came off the bye. They lost to the Steelers in a game they probably should have won. They beat the Bears, and then they got, totally pulverized by the Ravens. And then they followed that up with 2 straight wins. And I think that was definitely really important to get those 2 straight wins, Arizona and Seattle. And now they got to, carry the torch on into Dallas in a hostile environment. But at the same time, at 6-7, how's the crowd going to be? How are the fans? How's the team going to be? Have the Dallas Cowboys quit? They haven't won in a bit, and they don't beat teams with a winning record. So, could that change on Sunday? Maybe. Dallas is certainly capable with the talent on their roster to stick with the Rams and make this a shootout. But at the same time, the Rams defense is certainly good enough to shut down Dallas, whereas Dallas's defense, I think, is also good enough to pressure Goff into making some turnovers, keeping the game close. So it should definitely be interesting. The last time these two faced, the Rams did win. It was in I believe it was in Dallas, and it was Greg Zuerlein kicking 7 field goals in the regular season I'm talking about. They obviously played in the playoffs, and they played at the Coliseum, and they couldn't stop C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley, but who can blame them, because really nobody could at that time. So, obviously, this game means a lot. The Rams have played Dallas more than any team in the playoffs. They could end up playing them again. This could be a preview of the playoffs, kind of a no-win situation there, having to play a team that you play in the regular season, who has a lesser schedule and a lesser record than you. But That's neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is this: Rams have to take care of business. We can talk all day about, blowouts and things like that, and that'd be great, right? I mean, everyone loves a good blowout if it's their team blowing the other team out. However, is it realistic? Well, I do think it's realistic, so that we'll throw that away. But however, if they don't blow out the Cowboys, as long as they win, it really doesn't matter, because this is something that the great Babe Ruth said: yesterday's runs don't count for today, right? Well, yesterday's points don't count for tomorrow. So if they go off on a tangent against Dallas, it's not like it's going to help them. They don't get to carry over some of those points to take down the 49ers. I mean, that's going to be a tough game either way. So it doesn't matter the score that they win by. All that matters is they put W's in the win count. They put W's in their record, and at the end of the day, if they finish 11-5, they got a really good chance of making the playoffs. They just need the Vikings to lose one game. But I mean, if they finish 10-6, they need even more help. So, they need the Vikings and the Packers to lose, and, things could get a little worrisome and crunch timey and stuff that's not comfortable. And as a fan, I mean, you're never going to be comfortable watching this Rams team. They haven't really allowed you to be pretty much the whole year until now, and yet you're still not comfortable. But at the same time, there's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of excitement. The Rams are finally running the football with Todd Gurley. The defense has reached its peak, maybe. I mean, it's better than any Wade Phillips Rams defense has looked. All those things matter. And now you have Tyler Higbee playing at a high level, and Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are going to go over 1,000 yards. And I mean, there's not a receiver right now that gets open as much as Robert Woods has gotten open the last 3 weeks. So it's definitely going to be interesting. Definitely going to be interesting. My final prediction, I'm going to go with 38-17. For those of you who are wondering why I've just kind of gone off on a tangent here, Alexis has left the building. She actually, we had some time constraints here, so she wanted, adamantly to be a part of the show. I don't do the show without her, as we all know. So, we did that, and she was able to, get her words in. But she is gone. If you're wondering, she has the Rams winning against the Cowboys. I just don't know what the score prediction was, but I have 38-17. Hear me out. The Rams defense is averaging, once again, they're averaging 15 points per game. Opponents are averaging 15 points per game against this Rams defense since Jalen Ramsey has been traded over week 7. And that is not including, that is including the fact that they gave up 46 to the Ravens. So, I mean, that's big, big, big. On top of that, okay, we won't just like stick there. If you took away the Ravens game, they are literally allowing 10 points per game. That is incredible, especially with the way the offense has played since week 7. Let's remove the last 2 games. The offense hasn't been that great aside for those last 2 games. So definitely some good stuff there to take away. I like the way the Rams look over the last 2 weeks. They look renewed. They look hungry. They look like a team that has not quit, whereas Dallas looks like a team that quit in Dallas. And it was on a Thursday, and it was not just any Thursday. It was in front of the country during Thanksgiving, and they lost to the Bills that no one gave a virtual shot to. And to me, that was really telling, because people did not take the Bills seriously. They went into Dallas and they beat them down. They outplayed them. That's exactly kind of how I feel the Rams are going to go. Now, here's the thing. Dallas does have some good things going their way, and here's why. No one expects them to win. I mean, that can go one of 2 ways. You can either shock the world or just do the expected. I think it's going to be more of the expected. I think the Rams do a nice job against Ezekiel Elliott. They go back to their game plan against the Cowboys in the playoffs last year. They sell out to stop Ezekiel Elliott. They're not going to, they're not going to take any chances. And then I think just their pass rush, even with a 4-man rush without the blitzing, which I know they'll blitz. Taylor Rapp is the best blitzing safety in the league over the last 3 weeks. So he'll definitely get his, but I think the 4-man rush, just the regular 4-man rush, will get to Dak Prescott, will fluster him. You have the athleticism all over the line of scrimmage, guys like Taylor Rapp that can operate, guys like Eric Weddle, guys like Corey Littleton. you'll be fine. And so I think the Rams know that. I think the Rams will continue to put together their offense. I think they'll gain more confidence. I think Goff has a day and the Rams win 38-17. That is my prediction. Rams move on to 9-5. And that means they got the 49ers and they got the Arizona Cardinals. 49ers on Saturday night and the Arizona Cardinals the Sunday after that. And that is a huge last two games of the season. They both matter. Also this weekend, basically if you're a Rams fan, you're rooting for the Chargers versus the Minnesota Vikings. You are rooting for the Chargers at home, regardless of that crosstown rivalry nonsense. You are rooting for the Chargers because if the Chargers beat the Vikings and the Rams take care of business in Dallas, guess who has the number one spot or the next spot in the playoffs, the wild card? That would be the Rams, not the Vikings, the Rams. So the Rams have tiebreakers over the Vikings and Packers. They do not have tiebreaker over the Seattle Seahawks, and I believe they have a tiebreaker over the 49ers if they somehow were able to tie, which seems very unlikely. However, that's why you play the games. So another crazy scenario, 49ers lose to the Falcons, 49ers lose to the Rams, and the 49ers lose to the Seahawks. 49ers could lose the next 2 out of 3, but if they lose to the Falcons, things get really, really interesting. I don't really see that because of the way they played against the Saints, but I also don't think the Saints are that great. I've said it over and over and over and over again. The NFC East is a trash heap. The NFC in general is overrated. It's not very good. It's just not. And I think when you look at other leagues, I mean, it's night and day, really. So, I just, the way I see it is I think the NFC, your 6th seed is just as good as your 1 seed. All the records show is who was more consistent during the year. It does not mean that, who was better. The Rams got off to a rough start. They went through some injuries on their offensive line with some young players. They're battling back. They're fighting back, and they're in the thick of things. I mean, that's what it comes down to. The Titans and Rams right now are the scariest teams in football. They're teams, literally, if you are a Saints fan, if you're a Packers fan, if you're a Vikings fan, a Seahawks fan, a 49ers fan, a Cowboys fan, if you are a Chiefs fan, a Patriots fan, a Ravens fan, a Steelers fan, Texans fan especially, you do not want to see these two teams. You don't want to see the Rams in the playoffs, and you do not want to see the Titans. Both teams can run a balanced offensive attack, and they both have a really good defense. The Titans, they have some huge star power in guys like Kevin Byard, guys like Rashaan Evans, guys like Harold Landry, Jarrell Casey, Jayon Brown. And then, of course, the secondary, because they got Logan Ryan and they got Malcolm Butler. But, the Rams obviously have that star power as well with Aaron Donald and Corey Littleton and Jalen Ramsey. And, of course, Eric Weddle, Taylor Rapp. The way Troy Hill is playing, he looks like a secret star. No one's talking about him. And then the way, Dante Fowler is playing. So, I mean, there's a lot of star power, and I just think people are going to sleep on the Titans. I think people are going to sleep on the Rams, and, the scarier one is the Rams, and it's not biased because the Rams have been there before. They've been in the Super Bowl. They went up against Bill Belichick and the Patriots, and they lost. But look, if they can get in the Super Bowl, if they can get into the playoffs, I think they go to the Super Bowl because I don't think this team, with all the experience they have, including the quarterback that's been in this situation, the running back, pretty much the whole team except for a few, the head coach especially, I don't think this team with all that experience and a team that has just as good of a roster as anybody is going to lose in the playoffs. I don't care if they're on the road. They've already proven that they can win on the road. So that's my take on that. I appreciate Alexis obviously making the effort to get on here. It was not easy. It's not always easy, doing this, but we want to make sure we got some good content out for you guys ahead of this Rams Cowboys matchup. So hope you guys enjoyed. This has been episode 266, and we are signing off. Jake Allenbogen, she's Alexis Kraft. Thank you guys so much, and hopefully we'll be talking to you guys after another Rams victory. Take care and enjoy the weekend.